Welcome, parents, to the Impactful Parents Inspire and Learn series, where real parents come on and tell their real stories of inspiration and learning. Because a wise man learns from his mistakes, but a wiser man learns from other people's mistakes. So today we're going to learn from our guest speaker, Laura Hernandez. I'm so excited to have Laura on because we're going to talk today about what it's like to have big families and what we can learn from this really experienced mother, and a little bit about adoption. Now, Laura and her husband live in Dallas with their 10 amazing children, and a few of those are also adopted and have special needs.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I can imagine it's a very, very busy household. Can you start us off just by telling us a little bit about your family?
My husband Tony and I, we live in Dallas area, and we kind of started our adoption journey after we had our third biological child. And we knew that we wanted to adopt. And so we, after the third one, he's like, I don't know if I can do any more after this. We have to go ahead and adopt so that we can be done. And we got to get this ball rolling. And so we started the foster care process, and we had Andrew placed with us when he was a baby. And then he went back to bio mom. And then she subsequently had two more kids, and we subsequently had two more kids. And so we were up to five, and she was up to three, and they were removed again. And so they came into our care. And so we went from really 4 kids to 8 kids all in one, like 6-month period, because we had just had our fifth biological. And that really rocked my world. I know that different people have different thresholds where they're like, this was the hardest for me. That was definitely the hardest for me. I feel like we just lived in survival mode. And our little buddies, we had 5 little guys, 4 and under, all in diapers. And so it was just a lot. And
yes, that's a lot.
That's a lot. I remember standing up against the wall on a daily basis and thinking, I just got to make it to bedtime. If I can keep everybody alive until bedtime, we'll be good. And so it was just a very survival mode situation that was really hard. And so we've made our way out of that. And so it's my mission now to help other mamas kind of make their way out of their crazy and feeling overwhelmed.
It's nice to know that you went through the foster care system to get your adopted children, but I'm very familiar about the foster care system and how that works. And it's a very invasive process, actually. They come in quite a bit and they're very thorough about who they place kids with. Do you have anything that, if anybody who else would like to go through that process or is considering it, do you have any tips for them?
I think that the biggest thing would be to make sure that they and their partner are on the same page, and that they're 1,000,000% sure that this is something they want to pursue, because it is so hard. It is just such a roller coaster. And then once they're in your home, the trauma that they've experienced and all the things that they come in with that you really don't know about until they live with you for a long time. And all those things start oozing out. You have to be able to look back and say, like, I know that I was supposed to do this beyond a shadow of a doubt. And so therefore I'm just being faithful to what I knew I was called to do. And I think that's the biggest thing that's helped us in this whole process, because there have been so many, many hard days. And just knowing that we're being obedient to that calling has really helped just get us through every day,
Yeah. Adoption is difficult, either way, but I don't know that there's probably some parents out there thinking about adopting, and it's like, which way do I go? Do you foster to adopt, or do you go through an adoption agency per se? And they're just so completely different. And I don't think people realize that sometimes. And it's definitely a calling to be a foster parent and a foster to adopt parent. Tell us a little bit about your special needs children.
So all 3 of them have fetal alcohol syndrome disorder. And that looks so different for every child that has it. There's a whole lot of children. It's really prominent in the US, and it's not something we talk about often. It's a kind of a shaming thing to talk about. And I mean, and rightly so. Like, there's abuse going on in the womb, and it's shameful. But the majority of the time, I think that parents are the ones who are seeking out help, have adopted or have taken kids in, right? And so there's so many resources out there, but they're so hard to find. And I really want to just open conversations about it, because it can be so tricky. There's so many different aspects that it hits on. One of our little buddies has intestinal issues from it. they all three have IDD, which is intellectual and developmental delay. And that is kind of the new PC term for mental retardation, which means their IQ is really low and their developmental process and everything is really low. And so it just takes a really long time for them to get concepts, and they will probably all be very dependent on us for the rest of their lives. And so that's kind of a whole new thing that we were unaware of going into the foster care situation, that was even a thing. And I had no idea. Like I did not have a life around special needs children at all growing up. And so I was just very clueless on what that looks like, and the hardness for the family and for the moms and the burden that they're carrying. And so we did not expect it. it was quite the surprise. And so it's been a journey to find kind of our community in our village and to find safe people, because a lot of people just don't understand. Particularly with our family, they look at our family and say, oh, they have 10 kids. And then they see our kids that they don't look special needs. Like they don't have Down syndrome. So they don't have faces that you can look at them and say, oh, they're delayed or whatever. They look like normal kids, but they're acting like a 2-year-old. And so it's just really hard for people to kind of wrap their mind around that. They want to blame somebody. And of course it's the parents. If they're going to blame somebody's doing something wrong, it must be the parents. And so that's just been a real eye-opening thing for me. It allowed me to have a lot more grace for people in situations that I'm unaware of, and where I used to be quick to judgment, I'm now able to kind of pause and have empathy for parents.
I think it's really powerful that you're putting this out there. So many parents don't understand how the foster care system works, first of all. In addition to that, they don't realize that, when you go into that system, you are expecting to get a child that might have some kind of ailment, but you don't know the severity of what that's going to look like. And I know for me, when we were going through it, it's like, yeah, you know that it could happen. You know that that's a huge possibility, but you don't really know until you're in it, right? Like there is just, you still have this idealistic thing coming on in your brain, like it's going to be hard for a year or two, but it'll work itself out kind of thing. And that's not the case for so many people. And I think that you coming out and just talking candidly about how the process works is so informative for those people who are considering to foster, to adopt, or to adopt in general and trying to figure out how to do it, but also for families out there who don't understand that sometimes these disabilities are invisible. And I love that you're saying that you can't see it. Like they don't have Down syndrome, so you don't see it on their face, literally. They look normal. And I hope that by making that aware to some of this population out there, that people can have a little bit more grace and patience with parents and their kids. And you don't know everybody's story. There's so much more that happens behind the scenes that people don't realize. So
yes.
Yeah, thank you for talking about it, because it's such a big deal. As I was saying, like, you do expect something as a foster parent to happen, to come. What did you think? Because you obviously weren't expecting maybe this particular syndrome. So what were you thinking that you were probably going to get?
I think the biggest surprise to me, Christina, is just how I respond to things. Like, I feel like I didn't go in with rose-colored glasses, and my husband and I could talk about, okay, this could happen. This could be a possibility. But I didn't anticipate my response. Like, one of the things that this is kind of gross, but feces on the wall is like a thing that, kids from trauma have, and they'll throw it and it's gross and nasty. And so you can kind of have a conversation about that and be very cool, relaxed, whatever. We'll just clean that up. They're from trauma. They have all this trauma. And so we can kind of have like a conversation of how we would respond. But when you're in that moment and the smell of poop is everywhere and there's literally crap all over the room, it does something to your body that you just, I'm all of a sudden so angry, and I was not anticipating that anger, right?
Yeah, but you're human too, right?
Yes. And so kind of learning to embrace those things and all of those things together, it has been a very complex journey for me. And I feel like that's probably one of the ways I've grown the most, is just taking the both and of understanding their trauma, and then also kind of my limitations as a human, that I'm not going to go in and respond like an angel every time, that it's okay that I'm angry that there's poop all over the wall. Like those two things can exist together.
Do you have any fears about the real mother or father or family member coming back or anything like that that potentially could happen with a foster situation?
Yeah, I'm actually not friends with the mom, but she tells me she thinks of me like a sister. Like after Andrew went back to her, we kind of built a relationship with her, and so we talk on a semi-regular basis. And, she doesn't have any contact with the kids, but there is a reason why they've been removed, clearly, right?
Yes.
And so their lifestyle, I'm trying to tiptoe around this a little bit,
Yeah.
their lifestyle, I don't see that happening anytime in the future. Like they are not dangerous people, but they are very fluid people and they move a lot. So I think that we're pretty safe from that.
What has been your most wonderful takeaways from that? Because I know we're talking about some of the hardships that come with that. And I don't want people out there to feel like it's all hardships. There are some amazing, beautiful things that can come from foster to adopt.
I think the biggest thing for us has been knowing that they're safe at night. I think just because we had that relationship with, I'm going to cry talking about this here, but because we had that relationship with Andrew at the beginning, there were so many nights I just laid awake and was wondering, like, is he safe tonight? Is somebody feeding him? Is he okay? Like,
Yeah.
and so now I know that they're safe in our house and they're being fed and they're being taken care of, and nobody's going to come in and hurt them or do things to them. Like they're safe here. And
Yeah.
so I think that's been the sweetest part of it, is just knowing that they're safe.
It is, and you're doing a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's really beautiful. Thank you again for doing it. Tell me a little bit about how you create time to connect with your kids, because you got 10 and you have to make connection with all of them for them to feel good, to behave. Even you can't, there's no behavior, good behavior without a connection. People have to have a connection and a reason to behave in order for that behavior to happen, right? So connection is super important, but I got to imagine you're spread pretty thin. So what are some things that you might do that you could give tips for?
Yeah, I think just really focusing on knowing that that is a priority. Like that sounds kind of silly, but I think realizing that, oh, I do need to schedule that in, or otherwise our days are just going to fly by, right? So one of the key things that I've done just to kind of make that the most impactful it can be is to kind of learn our children's love languages. So how do they feel most loved? How do they feel most connected to you? And so for one of my little buddies, it's like playing games and doing puzzles together. And so if I see he's kind of down, I'll be like, hey, let's go play a game really quick. Let's go do a game of speed or whatever. And you can kind of see him light up a little bit. And we just have like a 20-minute, it's nothing huge or like a huge date night or anything. It's just something simple, but he feels loved and his love tank's filled up and we can talk and connect during that time. So I think that is a huge part of it, is knowing kind of how they feel the most loved. And then also trying to just make it a priority, but then also make opportunities, like the opportunities I have to go out of the house, I'll often grab a kid with me and we'll drive through Sonic and just kind of have a little date along with it. And again, it's like 10 more minutes of my errand time and they feel loved and valued and connected. And so that's hands down worth it.
I'm just going to play little devil's advocate for my viewers here and say, do you ever go out to eat at restaurants? And how do you drive all those kids around? Because that's what I know people are thinking.
Yeah, we have a NV 3500. So it's kind of the big 12-passenger van. And it's a great car. And they all just pile in there. And then we do go out to eat. My husband and I have date night every week. And that's kind of another thing that that's a priority. We have to make that happen to be able to connect with each other. But then we also there's a place in town called Chewy's. They have a ton of chips and salsa and free queso and all these things, right? So if I can just get everybody sitting down and automatically eating, then everybody's happy as a clam. And we practice going at earlier times. And so that way they know how to act at restaurants. And we set those expectations in the car of like, okay, what do we do in a restaurant? Do we run around in a restaurant? No. Do we get out of our chair? No. Okay. And we kind of role play what those things look like and how they're to act while they're out in public. And I think that the big key is just practicing when there's nobody around, because I think there's so much shame that mamas can feel by taking their kids to a restaurant and they're throwing a fit or throwing a tantrum or throwing food on the floor, or like whatever it is. And they can feel so much shame by that. But if you go when it's just like 5 old people there, then your kid can do whatever. And the old people think it's so cute. But at the same time, you can be training them and teaching them how to act and respond, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And that's good advice for any age, especially when you have a very young child who's just learning how to get into restaurants. I mean, we're talking like toddlers, it's great to get out there and practice and try not to hide out in your home just because you're embarrassed of what might happen when you go to a restaurant. You got exposure. You have to do it. Avoiding teaches nothing. You actually have to go through it and go through the battle and just prepare yourself beforehand for whatever might come. So I love that tip. So do you have tips for creating systems that really would help parents? What kind of advice can you give us with your busy households?
So this is what I love to do, is help mamas create systems in their home. So I do coaching and do classes and stuff like that, and help them kind of streamline their home so that they can have space for themselves, and they can do things that they enjoy, and they can get the things off their plate that they don't want to be doing, right? So kind of my biggest go-to is just to pay attention and to be observant and mindful of what you're doing in your home, what you want to be doing, what you don't want to be doing, and those things that you hate. Like, even if it's simple, like I don't like unloading the dishwasher, so I make my kids do it. Like that's just one simple thing. And so then creating chores around that and setting really clear expectations with our kids about like what we expect of them, and not only what, but how it is to be done with excellence, and what the consequences are if it's not done, right? So in our house, that looks like they get another job. So if I walk in the morning and it's already 9 o'clock, that's kind of our cutoff time for morning jobs. And if somebody hasn't done their morning job, they also get a stick, and that stick, it's like a popsicle stick. And on that popsicle stick, there's another job on there. And so they have to do that as well as their job. And so that's going to help cut down on a lot of forgetting of jobs around the house and not knowing that was my job, I'm kind of blown away by how effective just that setting of expectations is.
It really is very powerful. I talk about that a lot too in the Impactful Parent. And I think that's where a lot of parents make a simple error. They think that their kid already knows your expectation. And really you have to be very, very explicit about what you need. Not only not just what you want from them, but the time frame that you need it from, the consequence of what's going to happen if they don't do it, the reward of what's going to happen if they do it. And all of those things actually have to be talked about and have a conversation. And once you do, for kids, I feel like that just creates so much more security for them, because they know there's no unknown anymore. Now I know exactly what's going to happen when I choose to either do this thing or not do this thing. And when you follow through with that, it just creates so much consistency. And now the kids develop trust in their parent because, yep, mom told me and that's what happened, or yep, I didn't do it and yep, that's what happened. And they test it both sides, but it creates a bond, which it's so like you wouldn't think of it would, but it really does. It creates those that foundation that kids need to feel secure in their home, is to have everything really explained out to them, for them to know, to not have any question about anything. It's really great. I love that. What else do you have?
I think that creating space for the mama is huge.
Oh, yes.
So many of us just kind of run ourselves ragged, and we're keeping up with the Joneses and signing up for everything. And I mean, we can just say no, first of all.
That's so hard for some moms.
I know. I've learned to practice in the mirror and kind of practice my speeches to people of like, I'm not going to be able to do this year. And just creating that space, that kind of buffer with myself, has made me be more compassionate and kind to my people, because these are the relationships that really matter, right? If I'm doing something at school or volunteering for something, it's important, but it's not as important as these people in these relationships. So if I'm out there volunteering away, that's lovely. But if I'm so done at the end of the day that I'm yelling at my people and don't have time or capacity for them, then it's worthless,
So how do you make yourself a priority when you have 10 people constantly, mom, 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 mom.
It's like you've been here before. Yes. So there's a few things that we've done. First of all, I think that acknowledging that I'm worth it, that I'm worth taking care of myself. And that has been a lot of counseling, a lot of work on my end to get there. But then also knowing that I need that, like seeing the difference in the end of the day of me taking care of myself and not running myself ragged, but just doing the things that need to be done that day. And I mean that, like, even in the simplest things of like not trying to do all the house cleaning in one day with all the laundry and the cooking, all those things all in one day, but kind of creating systems around that to take care of yourself. And then being really, really priority focused on creating that time for you. So today I have a babysitter coming over and I'm going to go get a pedicure and go do a few other things. But I've had to like plan that out and be intentional with that to have the babysitter come over so that I can have some time and space for myself and not feeling guilty about that, because you work hard and it's hard being home with people all day. And so just being okay with that you deserve that is such a huge piece of that.
So you have so much to contribute for so many parents. If they would like to get a hold of you to find out more about mama systems and how to organize their life so that they can really not only take care of themselves, like you said, but manage their household more efficiently, or maybe somebody wants to get a hold of you because they are considering the foster care adoption way going, how would they do that?
Yeah. So my website is mamasystems.net, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Mama Systems. So it's super easy, MAMA. And I would love to talk about any and all the things. So adoption, special needs kiddos, that can really be a lonely place sometimes. And so I'm always up for having a conversation and kind of brainstorming some good ways to help take care of you.
Yes, there's so many parents that need that. And like you said, it's very lonely, especially when you have the special needs kids. Well, these are just so specific things that a lot of families deal with, but nobody talks about. And that's here why in the Impactful Parent, I wanted to bring you on, because we need to talk about this. And we want to help everybody out there. So if you're one of these parents, please get a hold of Laura. She's amazing. You can ask her lots of questions. You can join her program. She's got a lot to offer. If you have an inspiring story and want to share your story with the audience so that others can learn from you, please go to theimpactfulparent.com, which is my website, and you can sign up there. I think it's on the Work With Me tab at the very bottom of the page. Sign up. You can get onto the Impactful Parent and tell your story too, because we do want to learn from you. But until next time, you got this, parents. We're just here to help.